What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P. We are back here once again, and you already know what time it is. It is time for stuff. What type of stuff? Off season type of stuff. One thing's for certain, three things are for sure when you see me in front of your TV. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats and not none of that static. And number three, perhaps the most important of the number of them all, number three. Want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And you may be asking yourself, how, Don, how, Mr. P, does one keep their Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's not a secret. I'll let you know. I'm not keeping it from you. Just like, subscribe, and share with your peoples. And once you've done those things in any order, it doesn't matter which order you've done them in. I mean, you've indeed kept your Lions news pragmatic. And speaking of your peoples, when you share this with your mother, your brother, your father, your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your brother, your father, your sisters, your mother, your brother, your father, you name it. You name it. You have indeed cared about those people. Hey, man, we got not some breaking news. We got some news. We got some speculation. And we're going to come to going to come to a conclusion. One Mike McDaniel, as you see on my thumbnail, Mike McDaniel and Dan Campbell were sitting at a fancy restaurant while Mike McDaniel was being wined and dined by Dan Campbell. What was said during this exchange? I don't know. Because in the LNU thumbnail, you see them outside of the restaurant having a laugh with each other, sharing a laugh. So whatever was going on in the restaurant was good because they came outside and they laughed. Now, none of this is verifiably true because obviously I didn't have pictures from inside the restaurant. I didn't have pictures from outside of the restaurant. I've just got a crack team of reporters that work for me. And they say it's legit. But what is true, what is able to be verified, I'm going to see if I can pop it up on the screen for you. All right, let me see if I can pop this on the screen for you. Let me see. Let me see. One second. See if I can find it. Come on now, bro. Let me see. 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 Okay. Now there are two pictures here. All right. I'm gonna download them because I don't think I can. I don't think I can just pop them up on the screen without downloading them. So I'll download them for you, and then I will show you the pictures. Okay. Are you ready? All right, there are two pictures, and these are verifiably true. You can go and you can find them on Twitter. They are here. All right. Now let's pop this up here. Are y'all ready? All right, let me put my overlay in here. Picture number one. Are you ready? Exciting stuff. This is Lions fan catches coach Mike McDaniel landing at Detroit Metro Airport. He said, I put in a good word for the boys. You see, Mike McDaniel was a good sport. He took a selfie with this fan here. So we can see, we already knew that Mike McDaniel was in Detroit for the interview. That's why my crack team of reporters went out and got pictures from inside of the restaurant. If you don't know, I'm not being serious. It's AI. Okay, it's not a real picture. This is a real picture. This is real. Thumbnail pictures that I had, those aren't real. I just went because you have to. Oh, Motor City Cats, Motor City Don P said, no, I don't want anybody running with that and saying I had pictures and it's real. No, it's a joke, people. It's a joke. All right, so this is a real picture. Now the second picture, okay? The second picture. I wish that the windows were visible in that picture so you could see the time of day that it was in. Because this second picture is Mike McDaniel leaving the airport and boarding a flight to Tennessee. Right? He stayed overnight. There had to be a wine and dine situation. There had to be a restaurant. He stayed overnight, probably at a hotel. Where he should have stayed was Dan Campbell's house in the guest room, and Dan Campbell should have personally driven him to the airport. Because what I would like to do here as a Detroit Lion, as a coach of the Detroit Lions, as the head coach of the Detroit Lions, is secure a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge deal. Why? I'm not concerned about the Titans. I'm not concerned about the Browns. I'm not even concerned about the Raiders. Not concerned about the Steelers. Not really even particularly concerned about the Ravens. Now, the Ravens would be the most attractive situation if he wanted to be a head coach. But there's a lowly team, well, it wasn't lowly. They were the defending champions. Philadelphia Eagles have fired their offensive coordinator, Kevin Petula, and promptly reached out to Mike McDaniel to see if he would like to interview for their vacant OC position. Now, Mike McDaniel should not be swayed by these serpent-tongued Eagles. Because Mike McDaniel will be walking into a situation where the head coach and the offense and the star receiver almost came to blows on the sidelines while Philly was getting that ass beat by the 49ers. You do not want to come into a situation of tumult and tumultuousness when you are looking for a job. Let me take this off the screen. When you are looking for a job, I just left that up there for y'all so y'all can see it. You want a stable situation. Fun fact, most people don't like Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni is a tool. It's a bit of a dish. An asshat and an asshole. Most people do not like Nick Sirianni. But we do know that Mike McDaniel likes Dan Campbell. We do know that Mike McDaniel has tremendous respect for Coach Dan Campbell. We do know that Dan Campbell handles himself in a professional manner. Dan Campbell is big on accountability. He will point the finger to himself way before anybody else, and he will avoid throwing you under the bus. Mike McDaniel just came out of a situation with an owner that apparently liked him and was going to have him involved in the GM search, but not enough to keep him on the team. Fired him. Mike McDaniel is coming from a situation where you could say he lost the locker room. He had a diva wide receiver in Tyreek Hill who did something that we've never before seen ever in the history of the NFL. And the NFL is very old. It's a very old league. While Tyreek Hill was on the cart, he was being carted off because he had an absolutely shredded knee, which he sustained in a pretty much meaningless game. Every game the Dolphins played in this season was meaningless. He made such a spectacle where he was clapping and pumping his fist, and he could be seen visibly. You could read his lips. Yes, yes. This is the display that you saw as Tyreek Hill was being caught in the field. That you've never seen that before. 100%, I can guarantee it, because it doesn't happen. So then you had a quarterback who's very mid, very, very mid, that began throwing the coach, Mike McDaniel, under the bus by talking about leadership and leadership not being on top of things. And when they have meetings and leadership's not there and so on and so forth, who do you think he was talking about? You think he was talking about the owner of the team? You think he was talking about the guy that pays his salary? No. He wasn't talking about that guy. He's talking about Mike McDaniel. He would always hint at Mike McDaniel's inability to control the locker room. The natives were getting restless. The inmates were running the asylum, whatever the case may be. How far is that situation that he just left from Philadelphia? Diva wide receiver, check. Tumult and tumultuousness, check. Upheaval, check. Now, quarterback, Jalen Hurts, professional. Quarterback, Tua, not professional. However, unprofessional head coach, Nick Sirianni. I don't see too much of a difference other than ownership. Other than ownership. And because the Eagles are in such a state, remember this. The Eagles fired Doug Peterson the year after he won a Super Bowl. Because the Eagles are in such a state and Nick Sirianni can't find the right offensive coordinator, and there's a problem with AJ Brown, and AJ Brown might get traded. And Howie Roseman said he didn't want to trade him because it's hard to be great when you're trading away great players. This is what he said about AJ Brown. So now AJ Brown and Nick Sirianni have this rift. Can't be repaired. Right? It cannot be repaired. So AJ's like, I'm trying to leave, bro. I want to get out of here. Guess what? You either grant him his wishes or you let him pout on the sidelines for another year, or you let him pout on the sidelines, in the game, on social media, after games, and during the week, all this stuff for another year. The Eagles go nowhere because you just can't overcome what's going on in that locker room. And Nick Sirianni gets fired next year, just like his predecessor, Doug Peterson. And if that happens, and you're playing the long game, Mike McDaniel, you may be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, but you need to do a year in Detroit. What y'all think about that? What up to everybody in the chat? I will get to your comments right now. Okay, Detroit fan, man. I thought you was Aqua Team Hunger for us for a second. I was about to be like, nope, not reading none of your stuff. What up, though, Zach J? He says, if you wanted McDaniels to come here, you needed to interview him in July and not January because I'm a Michigander and I don't even want to be here right now. Well, that's not really a fair point. I'll tell you why. Number one, you needed to be first. July is too late. Mike McDaniel has another job by July. July is crazy. Right? And I know you're being facetious. I know you're talking about the weather. But that's always the knock on Detroit. And we managed to get a bunch of all pros to come here. I mean, we drafted them. Right? We got some free agents to come here. We got Carlton Davis to go. Carlton Davis is from Florida, I believe. He wanted to stay in Detroit. Brad Holmes didn't want to give him $4 more million per year, but Carlton Davis wanted to stay in Detroit. You know, a lot of people have come here. So I'm saying, not a valid argument. All right. Pierce Sargent says, did you think it was interesting we were his first stop? That's what I'm saying. You had to be first. You had to be first. Very interesting. Very intriguing. And it was an OC job, not a head coaching job. Hey, I heard Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. Should we invite him to the facility but make him buy his own ticket just to tell him we're not interested and we're moving in a different direction? I'd love that. And when he gets to the facility, AG should be here to open the door for him. That would be awesome. What up, though, Brent DeWitt? Yo, Tater Bob. Any relation to Cheddar Bob? Detroit Fan Man says, I'd just hire Kafka and keep it moving. Not sure why we want McDaniel's sloppy seconds. If he fails any head coaching interviews, Kafka's backup New York Giants squad put up 517 yards versus us with Winston. He already debuted. Okay, it's a very simple situation. Mike McDaniel is a descendant of the Kyle Shanahan tree. We have a coach and a team which wants to run the football. We have at least one of Sonic and Knuckles, right? It could be Sonic and Knuckles. We could get the band back together, or it could just be Sonic himself, like it was when he first came out, debuted, to use your word, on Sega Genesis. We know that Mike McDaniel has very creative running schemes, which is what we were missing for the entire year, to the tune of before the Chicago game, the 3 games before the Chicago game, Jahmyr Gibbs had a total of 68 yards from scrimmage in 3 games. Not each game, no, the total for 3 games. So if you averaged it out, it was something like 23 yards per game, right? Maybe 22 point something, right? That's why we want a Mike McDaniel. I don't think Kafka is a proven offensive mind. I don't think that you can say, oh, they put up all these yards against us when they were mostly through the air, and Coach Shep had the hardest time figuring out that Wan'Dale Robinson was killing us and somebody needed to cover him. 100 and almost damn near 150 of those yards went to Wan'Dale Robinson. So if Mike Kafka is your first choice, I don't know why it's your first choice. The reason that Mike McDaniel got the head coaching job was because he is a descendant of the Shanahan tree, and he was Shanahan's offensive coordinator. Now, we knew that Shanahan was calling the plays, but let me ask you a question. Did Mike McDaniel prove to you that he couldn't call plays, or did he prove to you that he could? I think he proved to you that he could call plays. See, Mike McDaniel was a victim of Tua. First of all, Tua is very mid, and that was the quarterback he was strapped with. He was finally allowed to bench his ass after he just sat there spouting off at the mouth, throwing everybody under the bus. Finally allowed to bench him. And you knew he was allowed to bench him because that did not immediately threaten his job. I do not know why he got fired after they publicly came out and said he'd be involved in the GM search. Why would you have a coach who's not going to be coaching for you be involved in the GM search? What does that have to do with him? So he was a victim of a bumbling organization. He was a victim of a mid quarterback who also couldn't stay healthy and couldn't stay on the field. And the vast majority of the games that Mike McDaniel coached, it was with a Mike White or a Skylar Thompson as a backup quarterback. So if you want to say he failed as a head coach, that's fine. But the circumstances of what he dealt with in Miami have nothing to do with our team. And this is why Detroit is such a fantastic destination for a genius offensive mind. For all of the problems that Osama bin Johnson has as a human being, as a character, he's got a lot of flaws. He's a snake. He's all of these things. He's a traitor. He's a terrorist. All of these things. No one can tell you that he is not a brilliant offensive mind. We saw what happened last season when the minds were not brilliant offensively. One of them was terribly, horribly bad in Johnny Morton. And the other one in Dan Campbell was okay. He was decent. But he ain't got what the others got. He ain't got it. So this is why we want Mike McDaniel. Anybody in the chat want to second that emotion? Feel free. But I'm going to say Mike Kafka is not a choice of mine. What do you think about Dano wanting to be our OC? I'll get to that after I answer the rest of these. But yeah, I'm going to talk about that. McDaniel's going to have to trade his capris in for some actual pants. No problem. And I'm pretty sure that just like fans caught him at the airport and taking pictures, y'all can line up and bring him some pants. Send him some pants. Get some pants. All good. Whatever he needs to be comfortable in Detroit. That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? He can change it to his capris once he gets to the dome. Facts. Home games, capris. Hey, listen. Now, I was going to say something crazy. Pause. I was going to say, I don't care if he wants to wear booty shorts, but that's too far. Pause. Okay? But capri pants, you know what I'm saying? Wear your capri pants. Wear your dashiki. Wear your head wrap. What's going on? Hashtag if you know, use the hashtag. I know tactical sport, no. I'd hand Mike a blank check. Right. And that's not Mike Kafka. Exactly. Who had worse circumstances though, McDaniel or Daboll? I would say McDaniel had worse circumstances, and the reason I say that is we saw Daniel Dimes go to Indianapolis and ball the F out. Now, Danny Dimes was in a very similar situation. In Indianapolis, he had a top-end running back to help him out. In New York, he had a top-end running back to help him out. And that was when he did have that top-end running back, they won a playoff game, right? The general manager was an idiot, and he let him go to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think Daboll made some of his he made his bed. The Jackson Dart thing with the concussion, running in the medical tent, trying to save his job, he made his bed. I don't think Mike McDaniel made his bed because the quarterback that Brian Daboll had was better than the quarterback that Mike McDaniel had. If you're going to try to tell me that Tua is objectively better than Danny Dimes, I don't know what to tell you. You know, he got fired after Harbaugh became available. LOL. That's true. That's true. And again, not a great situation, not stable. You know? Why is Daboll your first choice? Let's just go off of this. Do you think Jahmyr Gibbs will excel in an offense called by Mike McDaniel or an offense called by Brian Daboll? Also, another thing. Here's another question, and this is, this might be a little bit spicy. Tua is not as good as Goff at all. But there's questions about Goff's arm strength, just like there were questions about Tua's arm strength. And yet we still, in the first couple of years of Mike McDaniel's tenure, were able to get the ball to Tyreek Hill heavy. Well, you've got a Tyreek Hill speed type. Thankfully, not attitude type, not character type, none of that in JMO, even though a lot of y'all want to try to say he's Tyreek Hill, even though he's never been in any actually real trouble. He's not a woman beater, allegedly, like Tyreek Hill. I'm just saying, I think Mike McDaniel's better suited for this offense. We are Arby's. We have the meats. Pause. Troy Aikman doesn't like McDaniel, and he is helping with the GM search. That why you believe he was fired? Too many good head coaching jobs available. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get offered one of them. Okay, he can get offered one of them. How many of them are good? How many of them are good? And how many of them does he fit? Does he fit any of the does he fit the AFC North? Do you think the character of Mike McDaniel and all, do you think he fits the AFC North? Because we've done this before. What makes anything good in the AFC North other than the Ravens? Okay, because the Browns' job is not a good job. The Steelers' job is not a good job. He has no offense. If he goes to the Steelers, who is your quarterback? Aaron Rodgers is not coming back. He's not. He already said this is going to be his last year, and the only way that he would have come back is if Mike Tomlin was still the head coach, and Mike Tomlin has stepped aside. You don't have an offense in Pittsburgh. You've got DK Metcalf, who, he showed that he really is not a number one guy. For whatever reason, inside his head, whatever. He's just not a number one guy. You can't count on him to be the focal point of your offense. Right? So the Pittsburgh Steelers job is really not a good job for an offensive-minded head coach. If you want to go there and you want to be a defensive, Brian Flores would kill it in Pittsburgh because they have no offense. They have defense. That's what his specialty is. Okay? So, boom, let's move out of the AFC North. The Ravens' job is the only one that you could go and say, hey, but I think he fits with Lamar. I think anybody would fit with Lamar. I think that would be the most attractive one if you're talking about being a head coach. If you're talking about being a head coach that just got fired and you're immediately going to get a second chance, it would be a team like the Baltimore Ravens. Now, do the Baltimore Ravens think he's a culture fit inside of that division? Is he going to be the leader of a tough, hard-nosed team? Because he wasn't in Miami. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the other ones. Las Vegas Raiders. Is that a good job? No, you don't have a quarterback. When you get to this place and you don't have a quarterback and they go Mendoza, maybe he goes. Fun fact, Dante Moore, who was widely considered number 2, is going back to Oregon. He will not be in the draft. He's going back to school because he likes that NIL money. Okay? So while you do have the first pick of the draft, you got to take a Mendoza. You got to take a quarterback because there's nobody over there. Unless you're going to run it back with Geno Smith. You want to run it back with Geno Smith? I don't think so. Okay? Now, you don't have a quarterback and you've got 2 offensive weapons. The fact that Genty is, I'm calling him a weapon very loosely. I'm just, okay? You got Brock Bowers, really. Cupboard Bear, offensive head coach. You're going to go over there and be 2-15. And you're also talking about, even if you get Mendoza, he is a rookie who's never played in the NFL. We have to stop thinking that all rookie quarterbacks are plug and play. Now, the rookie quarterbacks are coming out a lot more polished and a lot more ready, but it's still a rookie, which is why it's still a surprise when you see a rookie season like Bo Nix, for example. Right? But Bo Nix is not a whole lot of people impressed with Bo Nix. Trevor Lawrence, been in the league 6, 7 years. Okay. This is the first time he's had any success. Is Mike McDaniel, and we know Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck. Is Mike McDaniel going to be given enough time to watch a guy develop for 5 to 7 years? No, he's going to get fired. So that's not a good job either. The Tennessee Titans, you've seen Cam Ward play. Did Cam Ward excite you? What's the you and this is the only place where you really have a quarterback in position. Did Cam Ward excite you? Did when you saw Tennessee play, did you just go, "Oh, if they could protect him, they're going to the Super Bowl"? Okay? Am I missing anyone? I took all the AFC North teams except for the Bengals. That's crazy, right? The Bengals. So that's 3. I think there were 9 available. That's 3. Then we had I said the Raiders, then I said the Titans. That's 5. Didn't the Cardinals fire Jonathan Gannon? Who wants the Cardinals job? Who wants Kyler Murray? That's not a good job. Who wants Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray is a head case that doesn't do anything but play COD and not watch film. That's not an attractive job. You're going to get fired. That's 6, right? We've got 3 more. Who else is out? Who else is available? The Dolphins, obviously, you just got fired from the Dolphins. That's okay. Now we got 2 more available. Who else we got? The Giants? Maybe. But do the Giants want Harbaugh? Okay, you got 1 more. What's the remaining job left? You see what I'm saying? There's really 1 good job. And that 1 good job is the Ravens. If you, and we talked about this before, if you were fired as a head coach and you jump right into another opportunity just because it came along and it was a head coaching opportunity, regardless of how that sounds, right? Regardless of how the situation looks to you, and you just want, I just want to be a head coach, and you get into a bad situation, you're not getting another job because the optics are very bad. You got fired in a place where you couldn't succeed, and then you jump right into another place and you couldn't succeed, and you got fired much more quickly. And now people are asking, is this really a head coach? But you go to the Lions, you take the offensive coordinator job, and you go, hey, let me sit for a year or 2. And while I propel this once great offense back into the number 1 conversation, I get this team back to the playoffs, NFC Championship. Goodness gracious, maybe even the Super Bowl. If we fix our freaking offensive and defensive lines. There's a bunch of luster. There's a bunch of shine on you at that point. You see what I'm saying? He ain't got that boom, boom, pow. Troy helping the Dolphins, not the Lions. No, we're talking about a GM search. That I think that's why he was saying he was fired because Troy doesn't like McDaniel. If he's helping them find a GM, I don't know how him not liking McDaniel has anything to do with the GM, because he's the coach, not the GM. I don't care if he rocks sock at home as long as his offense is good. This is true. Kafka sounds too much like Kaka. I'm out on Kafka and all in on weaponizing autism with McDaniel. That's why they got rid of McDaniels in Miami, is what I was saying. Right. More so for longevity and continuity. I don't need longevity or continuity. I want a high powered offense for however long I can get. Because you already know that Dayball is going to be looking to get out as well. Right? None of if you hire any head coach that was recently fired, like he was fired in this cycle. If you hire him, he's an offensive minded head coach. He's taking the job because it is an attractive place for him to be the pilot of the offense. He's got a competent quarterback. He's got weapons all over the yard. And if they put up the numbers and the statistics, he looks really good. And the offers keep coming in because they're looking at something that you could quantify. How did this offense do? That is the quantification. You were in charge of that unit and you propelled them back to greatness. This is the point. He may leave after 2. It depends on how quickly he can get the offense turned around. Gotcha, my bad. Yeah, not sure about that. If anything, I'd let the new GM make that decision, not Troy. Oh, yeah. Off of the head coaching jobs that are good, I'd say 3. Okay. When Miami came here for joint practices, all we did was bag off McDaniel's culture, leadership style. Now it's true. Maybe if he was only in charge of offense, his oddness wouldn't be an issue. That's why nobody cares. He's just in charge of the offense. Like I said, Dan Campbell at that restaurant last night. Mike, hey, the offense is yours, baby. Here go the keys. You know what I'm saying? That's it. We don't care about nothing else. We want the offensive smoke. That's it. Okay, you could be over there vaping. You could be over there smoking weed. As long as you can make our offense, as you can return our running game to the glory that it had under Osama. I don't care nothing about what you do, man. I don't care nothing about what your your quirkiness and I don't care about none of that. Can you run the offense? Dennis Rodman, Jordan and them boys didn't give a damn about Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman came in and said, I need a vacation. I need to go cut loose in Vegas for a few days. They said, go ahead, man. As long as you can come back here and help us win championships, we don't care about what you do. And that's my approach with Mike McDaniel. I think people underestimate picking your second head coaching job because if you choose wrong, it could be your last. Big facts. You don't just jump into one. What up, though, Lupe Lions? He could pick his own QB in Pittsburgh, but who are you picking? This is the problem. Pittsburgh just got eliminated from the playoffs. They're picking in the 20s, right? There is no one else there. Who you going to get? Danny Dimes? Oh, sorry, he tore his Achilles at the end of the season. He's not available. I mean, you could sign him, but he's not going to be available for you to play. So again, you don't have a quarterback. You tell me where Pittsburgh's getting their quarterback from, and then we can have a conversation. He can pick his quarterback in Pittsburgh, but the pickings are slim. You telling me Pitts is not a good job as in staying stability? It's not a good job. He's an offensive mind. He has no quarterback. They have no offense. You have a journeyman at running back. Your biggest weapon on offense is a guy that punches fans in the stands because they use his government name. And did I mention you have no quarterback? Who is going to hand off the ball to this journeyman and throw the ball to this head case? I'm trying to tell you. It's not insane. You think it's insane because you look at what Mike Tomlin did. Mike Tomlin, for 19 years, was the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. For 11 of those years, he didn't have to worry about his quarterback because he had Ben Roethlisberger. That's why he won a Super Bowl. If Mike Tomlin were to come into this situation with the Steelers right now and be a fresh head coach, no chance he lasts 19 years because they don't have a quarterback. No chance. He'll have a say on how he wants the team built, not like they'd fire him after 2 seasons. Bruh. Bruh, again, we've only seen them have that type of consistency because the coaches came in and won. They may have the patience, but then you know what? The fans may not have the patience because you came from 0 losing seasons for 19 straight years, and then you get this guy who comes in and he's this offensive genius, and he's got nobody to be at the helm of his offense, which means he can't do much as a genius. That's all I'm saying. And they're going to be like, when is this genius going to show up? If he comes to Detroit and wins, he will have his pick at head coaching jobs in the next year or two. The Bengals, after they fire Zach Taylor next year. Facts. Zach Taylor's cheeks. But here is the other thing that I caution people about the Bengals. The Bengals is a terrible organization. And Joe Burrow can't finish the season. Is it as attractive as we think it is? Because you're like, so most people, if you just go off skill alone, okay? Most people, if you say, hey man, we'll trade you Jared Goff for Joe Burrow, straight up, most people would be like, in a heartbeat, do it. Skill alone. Right? He's got the arm, he's mobile, right? He don't run a lot, but we know he got jets. He used to run track. Some people don't know that about Joey B. And we've seen him pick up 30 yards with his legs straight down the field. We've seen that. He doesn't have the health. And he also gave a press conference about a month ago that y'all thought he was going to retire. We all thought he was going to retire. I got to make sure I'm having fun. I'm not enjoying this. I said, I'm not enjoying this bullshit. That's what he said. So I don't know. Caution. It all depends on how confident he is in his ability to pick a QB. Who they picking? Where is a QB? Where is a QB in the position? The Steelers are in a bad position for a QB unless Lamar Jackson is out there somewhere. And what I mean by that is, Lamar got picked last pick of the first round and then very shortly became an MVP. Unless that guy's out there somewhere, the Steelers are in a bad spot. They've been in a bad spot for quarterback for a very long time, since Roethlisberger left. Okay? Mike Tomlin was able to keep that thing together with people like Mason Rudolph. Okay? They never had no offense. It was always the defense. I mean, since Roethlisberger left, they haven't had an offense. Or Eagles after they fire Sirianni? Exactly. Obviously, these teams are all flawed. That's why they're available. Yes, But if you go to the wrong situation right after you were in the wrong situation, you will be fired again. And the list of coaches that got third chances is very short, right? It's hard to get a second chance, according to some people, but three chances, it's very hard to do, right? Second chances right away, people like Andy Reid, right? People like Andy Reid. Do you think John Harbaugh is one of those people? I'll tell you no, because what does he specialize in? John Harbaugh is a special teams coordinator. And guess what? Most people believe, and I feel like it's true, that Lamar falling into their lap at number 32 saved his job. So, like, so he's a very long tenured coach. He's a culture guy. If that's all you need, I guess, you know, he can pick the right coordinators. He can do it, you know. Space and angles focus of McDaniels is a better fit for the Lions. The only knock is that space is compressed in the red zone for his schemes. We dealt with that even with Osama bin Johnson. There was this team likes to compress their scheme, and we talked about it ad nauseum. I talked in both of those Vikings games. I asked you, and I begged you, Dan Campbell and Johnny Morton, to spread out the goddamn defense. Stop keeping everybody tucked tight inside and making it easy for the people to just come through and blitz. Because if you got four receivers wide, but none of them are wide, they're all at the line of scrimmage tucked in, and they're not blocking anyone. They may chip someone on the way out, but you're making it so much easier to get to the quarterback because you're not spreading the field. So, hopefully some collaboration can happen where people can learn from their mistakes and go, this wasn't the greatest idea. But between the 20s, Mike McDaniel, the keys are yours. I will not say a word. I will be quiet. I'll be over here like, man, I wish I could call a play. No, I told him I wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? I told him I wouldn't. That's what Dan Campbell need to do. Atlanta was the last one. Atlanta's in bad situation with quarterback. They want so badly to move on from Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins wants to move on from them, and they don't have a first-round pick in the draft, so it's not like they can draft a quarterback. The only way that you could is to trade future first-round picks. Michael Penix is cooked. I told y'all he was cooked before he came in the league. Giants GM is a clown. Indeed, he is. You can say the same about Harbaugh, bro. Yeah. I said it about Harbaugh. I hope he comes to Detroit, but there's opportunities, but I'm trying to sell Detroit. That's all I'm trying to do. Carson Beck. Really? Carson Beck gonna be 45 years old when he come into the league. What are you talking about? And it doesn't take much to win the NFC South. That is true. That's very true. That's very true. The NFC South is terrible. Bro, obviously they'll burn down the Steelers and build it back up. Only takes 3 to 4 years to compete for a Super Bowl. The problem is you're assuming that they're going to give him 3 or 4 years because they've been so consistent. Okay? I'm going to tell you that I believe that Mike Tomlin was given the opportunity to step aside. Okay. And why is that important? He was given the opportunity to step aside. He didn't make the decision all on his own. They're like, we don't want to fire you because we're not the Ravens. We're a classy organization. But the message is stale and we need to move on because we don't think that in the current situation and iteration of this team, you can get us anywhere. We haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. We keep making it, but we made it and put up 6 points while they put up 30. We got embarrassed. We don't know how patient they're going to be. If they give them guarantees, if they tell them, yeah, we're gonna give you the same Tomlin, then fine. However, if you're planning to do that and you felt that Tomlin's message and whatever was stale, and you need to get some new blood in here, you're obviously going to want to compete. And I don't know if 3 to 4 years is what they're in the market for. So that's a point, but I'm not sure. Like 8 wins to win. I think you can get it with 7 wins sometimes. Cincinnati is a poopy job. It is. In my opinion, Philly is more of a threat than Pittsburgh to take McDaniels from the Lions. Yep. And we talked about Philly, though. We talked about the tumult, the tumultuousness, the chaos, the toxicity. And that was all present in Miami. What up, though, Tactical Sport? Just got out of the gym? Yeah, Mike stepped aside, which means the Steelers still own his rights, and any team that wants him has to trade for him. Right. And again, that's a good point, right? Because now, if he decides to coach again, then the Steelers will be compensated. So he's basically helping the Steelers out. All right. What up, though, Mr. Morale 313? Y'all know what time it is? Mailbag. What you want to do? What you want to do when they read in you? Six, mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. So I'll answer a question that I was supposed to answer earlier that I didn't get a chance to. What do I think about Dan Orlovsky for the offensive coordinator? If you're still here, you'll get the answer. If you're not, you should have waited. Don't be so impatient. Dan Orlovsky for the offensive coordinator job. The pros, he's a former quarterback who wasn't great. He's very, as part of his job, he breaks down a lot of film and schemes and he understands offense very well. The cons, has zero coaching experience. What is it about David Blau that we didn't like, but we like about Dan Orlovsky? David Blau has actually been in the coaching ranks. Now, you may feel because Dan Orlovsky is older, right? I believe he was a teammate of Dan Campbell and on that 0-16 team. It would be one of those nepotism hires. You know what I'm saying? It would be a nepotism hire. So since we pounded the table for them not to hire David Blau because of that very same thing, I'm going to have to say no on Dan Orlovsky. Something about Dan Orlovsky makes you feel like he would be more successful than David Blau just because he's overall more experienced. Like he's older in football than David Blau, but has no coaching. So I would say no on that. Mailbag, if you can only have one free agent signing this offseason, who you signing? Tyler Lindenbaum. No brainer. No brainer. I would rather not have anyone who was once in the Lions organization, especially if they were in the organization when we were a mess, to be the OC. I know Dan was here, but maybe it's just me. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's the nepotism of it all. If we're gonna say no to David Blau because of nepotism, we got to say no to Dan Orlovsky because it would be the same thing. He's on TV. He's not a coach. He doesn't have any coaching experience in the NFL. He's on TV and he has a tablet and he goes, "Ooh, you see this guy?" Da, 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 da. 1 second. I came across um this thing that I used to use, and I'll try to find it. Um I don't know if I had an account on this website, but I came across it in like my files. Let me see if I have it on. I'll try to send myself an email to forgot account. We'll see. Because it would be cool if I have an account, then that means I save some of my play designs. And that's just something we can do this off season. During the slow time. We could draw a place, I guess, if y'all want to do that. Da, 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 da. It seems as though I have an account. Oh, snaps. Oh, snaps. Hold on. Let me see if anything's saved in there. This would be over 10 years ago that and then I can show y'all some of my concepts. All right. I'm adding a new feature to the mock draft. I think y'all are gonna love this thing. If it works the way that it's looking like it's gonna work now, y'all gonna love it. You ain't gotta like it, the hood gonna love it. You ain't gotta like it, but the hood gonna love it. Watch a young show us unpublished. Hey. All right. I don't know if that's going to log in. It is spinning, so we'll see what happens. All right. Mailbag, who do you consider as the top 3 choices to become the next OC? Mike McDaniel, probably a Jake Peets. I mean, maybe like a Kevin Stefanski, but I don't know. Like I'm not thrilled about a day ball. I wouldn't put him in my top 3 candidates. I don't even really have 3. Like, I'd like to see Mike McDaniel, he's my top guy. Take Pete's maybe. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is not even his philosophies won't align with the Detroit Lions. I mean, basically, he's out in Washington because Dan Quinn wanted him to run the ball more, and he was like, "Nah." So that's not gonna work in Detroit. Ah, man, I have to find a dark horse candidate, bro. I wouldn't take Greg Roman. I would take Todd Monken just because of the running game. But the problem is in Baltimore, their quarterback is a part of the running game. So what's the percentage of the running game that you can take Lamar Jackson out of and be overly effective? I'm gonna say Todd Monken with an asterisk as my third guy in my top 3. Mailbag with 9 head coaching jobs available. Does Mike McDaniel get one? We talked about that, and I said that basically the best one would be the Ravens one. I don't think really any of them, the other ones, are ideal for a guy that just got fired. Pittsburgh, you have no quarterback. You have your offensive weapons are a journeyman running back and a guy who punches fans in the stands. Uh, Las Vegas, there is no quarterback, and then hitching your wagon to a rookie, maybe. And you've got Ashton Genty, who might be a weapon, and then you've got Brock Bowers. That's it. Um, the Cardinals, nobody wants to coach Kyler Murray, I don't think. Um, we talked about the Falcons. Quarterback situation again is bad. They want to move on from Cousins. Cousins wants to move on from them. Browns, no. You know, anybody in the AFC North. As I said, the Ravens is the only one they offer him. I think he'll take that. But I don't know that the Ravens offer him. Tough, gritty, hard nosed team. Are you giving him the keys to that? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. Um, Mailbag. Mike Tomlin takes a year off and then goes to the booth. If he wants to. Does he want to be in the booth? Does he want to do the Sean Payton? I don't know. Um, Maybe he just wants to take a year off and get away from football altogether. Who knows? Um, Mailbag. Once 9 other head coaches are hired and they start assembling their coaching staff, are you worried about losing anyone potentially? Um, no, because the other guy, Pete's, is in he's in Seattle right now as their pass game coordinator. So he's got a job. I mean, he can be poached by any of those other 9, just like he can be poached by us. No, because I don't have a really large list, like I said, of offensive coordinators. The proven guys would be Mike McDaniel and Todd Monken. And then, like I said, Pete's would be a first time play caller, but he's been around McVay and You know, similar situation to Mike McDaniel, right? I don't think I'd be particularly worried about losing anyone. We've cast a wide net, you know. I mean, here's the problem. Because we know Mike McDaniel is available and we know that Mike McDaniel came here and spent the night in Detroit, and we know he has an affinity for Jared Goff and he has an affinity for Dan Campbell. Anything else is gonna be a letdown to me. You know what I mean? It's I'm gonna be like, oh well, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that no one else will be able to do the job. That's not what I'm saying. But if Mike McDaniels goes and takes a head coaching job, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, what are we gonna do now? You know what I'm saying? What we gonna do now? Another candidate, Zach Robinson, former Falcons OC, ex Rams staff. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. What can he do with a good quarterback? Because he didn't have one in Atlanta, so I wouldn't be opposed. Oh, our current staff. No. Our current coaching staff? Hell no. Nah. You know what? Poach Shep, please. Miami. What y'all doing? Call him and offer them the job already. Come on. While Flores is still out there. You know, y'all know Flores like interviewed in Washington, right? He's taking DC interviews. Hello? Dan Campbell. Brian Flores is taking DC interviews. Reach out to him on the sneak tip just in case. Hey, meet with him at a black site, a location that don't nobody know about. And if y'all can work out a contract there, then you work out the contract. And then the next thing you know, breaking news, the Detroit Lions have hired Brian Flores as their next defensive coordinator. Coach Shep, mad. You know what I'm saying? But at that point in time, hey man, I would say, Shep, man, you want to stay on as a linebacker coach, and you can learn a lot from Brian Flores, the way he uses his linebackers. You know? Mailbag, if we move on from Monty, which I think would be stupid, who do we bring in to fill that role? Gibbs can be on every down back, but he isn't particularly great at pass protection or hard yards. If you go that route, you just a seventh rounder. You know, you do the same thing that Andy Reid did with Isaiah Pacheco. You do the same thing that Osama bin Johnson did with Kyle Monangai. You can't afford too much draft capital or too much free agency money to be tied up in another running back like that. So, nah, Shep needs one more year. We don't get the Rooney Rule picks till he's DC for 2 years, right? No, I think as soon as he leaves. I think as soon as he leaves. But here's the question. Do you want picks or Brian Flores? I want Brian Flores. You know what I mean? If that's the case, if Shep's let go, but firing him is not going to get you anything. So that's why Miami needs to go ahead and pick up the phone and offer him the job. You know, I think he did the interview already. If not, then whatever. Miami, come on now. As I said, would be like they would always have a soft spot in my heart if they gave us McDaniels and they took Shep. Hey, all right, y'all. That's gonna be it for today. We will be back here tomorrow. As I said, I'm gonna start opening up the phone lines. I just forget about it all the time. So if you want to call in and discuss some things, I do have the link where it's not really phone lines. It's just it's not a phone. You don't call. I just put the link in the chat. And then I can get you guys in. You can keep your camera off. You can turn it on however you like Some people don't like to be in front of the camera. Some people do. So, um, yeah, and we can just come on and discuss topics. Um, I like reading your stuff in the chat, but if you want to say it verbally, you will have the opportunity. So we'll go ahead and do that. Remind me next time, and we'll get it started. All right. Once again, the Motor City Guys are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your lines news pragmatic, and we are out. Peace.